Does the name Joe Sutter ring a bell to you, pal?
An icon of note. The man, the legend.
Yeah.
Hey?
The Boeing 747, a bit of a story for us this week. And not just for us, but around the world as well. A lot of news articles about the Queen of the Skies and obviously the influence Joe Sutter had on that project.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's obviously been trending for the last couple of months, but the fact that the last 747 was rolled off the production line and taken up by Atlas Air, it's quite sad in a way to see, the end of an era in terms of airplanes like that
Caliber.
Being produced, yeah.
Certainly for us, I think that grew up with that 747. Certainly to me, it's the most iconic aircraft around. And when you see it flying today, it just looks the part.
Still the most majestic airplane in the sky. Very often we're standing in the garden with my kids and there's one of, I think Atlas fly over, Cargo Lux, and was it KLM Cargo that's still operating in and out of Joburg, and you see them bombing over our place, and it's so exciting to show the kids, like, look at that, it's got such a presence, such a beauty, and yeah,
it really is the queen of the sky. So all those airlines that you mentioned, it's all cargo now. It seems to be you're going to see them flying for years to come still, but mainly on the cargo side of things.
Yeah, well, of the 1,571 747s that have been produced in the last 55 years, I think that's the number. There's 396 of them still flying now, and the majority of it are cargo. In fact, I think there's only 44 passenger versions that
amazing.
Are flying. The rest is cargo.
Lufthansa is still coming to OR with the 800 or the Dash 8 version.
They are.
Yeah.
As far as I know.
Yeah. So definitely the end of a era there, and it's something to I think the people that have managed to fly it in their career, it's a nice thing to have in the logbook. I don't have that luxury or that privilege, but a huge amount of respect for that aircraft, and everyone that you speak to always has amazing things to say about it. Actually, one of our listeners, Andrew Evans. Most people know Andrew's one of these guys. He's a true aviator. So if ever I ask him something, he always gives a proper, real nice answer. And I said, Andrew, please, give us a bit of gen about the 747 because we're going to chat about it a bit on the podcast this week. So he sent me a podcast back. About half an hour's worth of, this is, you can take off with this weight, you can land on this runway, and really, really awesome thing that he did for us. I'm going to release that, Ryan, as a bonus special audio podcast.
Yes. Because
it's too good to cut, important bits out and fit it into the show. So that'll be released as a audio-only version podcast as a special just after this episode goes out. So if you want to listen to that, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcast content, that's where it will be. But Andrew gives a real lovely breakdown of the 747. And why did I go to Andrew? One, because he's one of these sort of true aviators, but he's also flying it at the moment. He's currently flying the aircraft for one of the big cargo carriers around the world. So I thought, definitely the right guy to chat to. And I think a lot of youngsters out there would really enjoy what he had to say about it. Real sort of factual stuff. Andrew, being the humble self that he is, said, no, there's better people to chat to, but here's my opinion on it. And really, really nicely broken down bit of info on the 747. So thanks, Andrew, for that.
Awesome. He's a true aviator and a true gentleman. And what's nice about getting Andrew's perspective as well is that he's flown the 777 for many years. So he often, draws the parallels and tees them up against each other. And so it's wonderful to hear from him and all the good stuff he's got to say about the 747.
And what he did now as well, he gave us a nice breakdown of the difference between the 400 and the Dash 8.
Yeah.
So quite very nicely done. So thanks again, Andrew. Check that out on that audio version. But yeah, the 747, what an amazing piece of kit. And obviously 4 engines, the way the world is going with COVID coming along, all the rest, game over for anything with 4 engines these days. And won't see something like that for a good time to come. There's been a few articles out lately. I think in a couple of weeks' time we're going to do a show on what the next gen of aircraft might look like. Some strange looking designs, high wing, high aspect ratio type of aircraft. So big changes are coming in aviation. But I think now you're going to see the 777X and 787s and 350s flying around for a long time before we see this new type of aircraft.
Yeah, exactly. Certainly a long time before we see anything that'll be as pretty as the 747.
It won't be as pretty. No, it won't. You just know it's not going to be. All these things that are like new tech, I mean, you can't compare a classic Ferrari to a new Tesla.
Exactly.
You just can't. So that was like, it was designed by a person. It wasn't designed on CAD, it was.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
some amazing, info and stats behind the design of the 74. I mean, the Joe Sutter and his team from initial design and inception, they had that thing rolled out of the factory inside of 29 months.
Crazy.
The whole story with Boeing and Pan American and how the whole thing got started was actually just phenomenal.
Yeah, it's a story on its own.
Yeah.
I said 4,500 engineers for the ambitious 747 project, which actually almost didn't happen because there was a slight issue with one or two things on the design. I think they call it a Sutter twist on the on the wing. The guys prefer and Andrew says it as well, the Dash 400 wing is a beautiful wing. It's got that whereas the Dash 8 is a much more modern design.
I've often heard 747 pilots say something along the lines that the 747 flies like a 172.
Yeah.
Just bigger.
Yeah.
Obviously with
that's
wider dimensions and a lot more momentum. But they say it's a handle. She's like a big 172. So
that's what Andrew says as well. And also, you've seen it, but I didn't really take it into account. Quite a low nose attitude on final approach, this as well, which also makes it nice and flyable.
Yeah.
I guess, and more like a 172.
Yeah.
So what a machine.
Jeez,
but being in Africa, we're definitely going to see them for years to come.
I'm sure.
And who knows, maybe we get a chance.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind getting my hands on one of those.
Yeah.
Promise you.
Apparently getting in and out of the flight deck, not the easiest thing in the world either. Much smaller flight deck than like on the 777.
I believe so.
Yeah.
You looked at that cockpit that was set up there at High Flyers. That what was the original 747-200 cockpit or something like that. I mean, it's amazing. But space-wise...
It wasn't big, eh?
No.
I wonder what's happening to that.
I don't know. I think a lot of guys asked the question, with High Flyers now closing down, what happens to all that
all those pictures and
all those art? Yeah. That's a lot of
history
aviation
there.
History that's going to...
I hope that gets taken over by another aviator and keeps that going. It would be so sad if that becomes a bloody...
If that stuff just gets boxed up and put in a shipping container somewhere and left to just like...
Look, I must admit, I went there sometime in December, early December, and it was looking a little bit run down. That 747 cockpit could have done with a bit of it looked like a...
bit of Mr. Min.
It looked like the cockpits at the end at Saks, just hadn't been cleaned. I'm sure there's a few rats running around in there.
Could anything look as bad as that?
Yeah, it didn't look the best. But, I hope that stays an aviation bar.
Yeah, iconic. But I mean, getting back to Joe Sutter, I like the way Atlas honored him by sticking his picture on the side of their last airplane. I mean, what a way to honor the man, who left a heavy legacy, man. Very, very cool. So
Yeah, there's a slogan there as well. It said "Forever Incredible." I think the slogan said,
Yeah, that comes from the team of designers. Joe and his team, they were nicknamed the Incredibles.
Right.
With the way that they put the design together and built the machine. Because there was a lot of doubts.
Makes sense.
So, yeah.
I don't know as well, Joe's grandson, John Sutter, also works for Boeing. And there's been a Sutter at Boeing since 1940. When Joe's brother started working for the aircraft manufacturer, and that was followed by Joe in 1945. So a huge family legacy there.
Yeah.
And nice to actually speak about it on the podcast because it's not Boeing's news of late hasn't been the most positive. But this is a really nice story. It's just sad that it's because of the end of that 747.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, the 380, came along and had a short stint in between. But,
what a short stint.
Yeah. From startup to finish, I think it was in production for less than 15 years, something like that.
Yeah.
55 years that the 747's been in production.
That's crazy.
It's madness.
You know what's sad? At the one article I was reading, at the end it says engines became more efficient, ETOPS rules were relaxed, the introduction of the Boeing 787 Dreamliner signaled the beginning of the end for the 747. I mean, the Dreamliner, from everything that I've heard and read and spoken to people that fly, that thing's a piece of cuck. And it's a little bit like saying, Justin Bieber replaced the Beatles. It's not the same thing. You can't say one is replacing the other.
Yeah, no, not by a long shot. I mean, still trying to get over that analogy.
Yeah. You can't compare. That thing's still a beast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Next story.
Have it.
Qantas.
It's funny. They've been in the news a lot the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, they've been in trouble.
Yeah.
Smoke detected in one of their cabins the other day on a flight from Fiji to Sydney. Diverted 45 minutes into the journey and landed back safely.
They've had an engine failure.
Yeah.
And the worst is they had an air turnback because of paperwork.
Was it because of paperwork? Genuine.
Yeah, there was a paperwork issue on one of it was the A330 flight from, let me just pull it up here.
So they've had a full range. It's been the 73s, the 330s. Turnback is the fifth such incident to occur at Qantas in the space of a week.
Yeah.
Raising questions about the standard of maintenance at the Australian airline.
Yeah.
So the maintenance department is being investigated.
It's ever since management have packed up their uniforms on the apron and are back in the office.
Boots on the ground. What was that one called?
Yeah, they're not loading bags anymore.
Yeah, isn't their CEO also about to duck or has
I think he's out of it because he's realized he had more fun loading bags. than crunching numbers.
Nice to make fun of the Aussies, but I find it hard to believe that there's anything wrong with Qantas's maintenance.
No, I wouldn't think so. I mean, I think it's all just media hype. It is a lot of crap.
I think there's a few operators in South Africa
that are far worse.
Yeah.
Qantas, I mean, yes, they're a massive airline. They've got a lot going on, and they've recovered, quite drastically in the last couple of years. So it's just the usual airline issues. Things are bound to happen, but just obviously making the news because there's probably a few bored journalists in Aussie land.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't have the violent crime that we do. So when a story like this pops up, you've got to jump on it.
But it's true because there was a picture of Qantas 737-800 that landed with a normal landing with the reverser deployed. And he goes, that's the engine problem that caused the airplane to turn around.
Meanwhile, the Oaks was pulling reverse on the engine.
So
the aviation journalism in general is so sensationalist it's actually not worth reading most of the time. There's a story here. I'll have to pull it up because if we actually speak about it, I don't think people will believe it. Yeah. But some of the journalism terrible. Staying in Oz, I didn't realize this. Melbourne to Sydney, the route, busiest in the world.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
How?
Yeah, it's apparently it was before. Now it's climbing back up again. It's almost. I think it competes with Heathrow to New York and
Really?
to JFK. Yeah, so it's up there. Melbourne to Sydney as business travelers. Yeah, one of the busiest in the world.
I suppose it makes sense.
It does. Yeah, I just didn't. You don't think of it.
Yeah.
So much.
Exactly.
But yeah, busy route. So carrying on with a continuation of another story that we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, the drama with Southwest. So obviously they had the operational issues caused initially by the weather, I believe it was, and then ruined the holiday plans for thousands of travelers. Still to this day, there's a bit of fallout from that. Southwest still trying to reimburse people for expenses accrued and all sorts of things, doing the right thing. And but now they've agreed to compensate the pilots as well that worked their guts off over that period.
Yeah, no, right. So
with a bit of a thank you check, which is quite nice to see. They're calling it gratitude pay, and that's for the guys that worked, guys and girls. Doesn't matter who you identify as. From December the 20th till January the 3rd, the 17,000 flights were cancelled. We know the loss there, $825 million. Southwest Pilots Association of nearly 10,000 pilots voted to accept the pay bonus on Thursday, including extra pay already given for the holidays and a reassignment pay. The union will receive an estimated $45 million US in additional pay. That's $4,500 US per pilot. It's
not bad money, man.
Better than a kick in the nuts.
100%. I mean, you can do quite a bit to that, $4,500 US. I mean,
yeah.
Some people will retire on that.
Yeah. You can buy a house in Clifton for that if you wanted the rand dollar at this stage.
Exactly.
Yeah. Southwest 18,000 flight attendants. Hey, that's nuts. 18,000 flight attendants. They were offered additional pay, but they did not specify what it's entailed. So we're not being biased towards the pilots by not mentioning cabin crew.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. So this is the story that I want to chat about now. And if I don't pull it up on the screen, I don't think you will believe me on this one, Ryan.
What's that?
The first officer on an American Airlines flight 106. Let me just pull it up here.
Oh, that's the JFK runway.
Yeah. You wanted to chat about this last week, but this article just... runway incursion Friday night at JFK was flying her first flight with the new cockpit procedures. At the time of the incursion, which forced a Delta flight aircraft to stop suddenly, the first officer was engaged in a series of tasks that involved processing takeoff data that included flap and power settings, as well as a runway assessment. But what the fuck do you normally do in a normal circumstance? So, I mean, yeah, let me pull it up for you. Yeah, let's have a squiz. Yeah, what is this?
I can't believe the media hype.
Look
that
at
this
this.
story
First
has.
officer JFK. Let's put ourselves in the corner there. 106 involved in a runway incursion Friday night. Time of the incursion forced a Delta Airlines aircraft to stop. But for the first time under new procedures introduced Jan the 2nd, she also had to make an announcement informing passengers and flight attendants of the impending takeoff, said the source. A pilot who has knowledge of the incidents and who asked not to be named, right? Procedures require the 777 first officer to inform passengers and flight attendants that the takeoff is imminent. That announcement was previously made by the captain. So a huge extra workload there on the FO. It requires the first officer to interrupt continuing tasks, be precise on timing, and change intercom settings. Also difficult there. The first officer, an experienced 7-3 pilot, was making a first 777 flight after 100 hours of training. Well, it's probably more to do with the fact that she had low time on the 777, not to do with the new procedures.
Exactly.
She has all this data to analyze and input, plus she has a new task on top of all of that, the source said. She was overwhelmed. What's that joke about a kitchen? Not going to say it anyway.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Oh, no,
whatever.
Ridiculous. I mean,
how's that?
No, they had to come out the woodwork.
That's in Forbes. I mean,
Hey?
I mean, really.
task saturated because it takes tremendous amount of brain power to,
Cabin crew, your seats for departure.
at the same time, having a look out that, there's a 737 not about to smash you on your starboard side.
Yeah, but I can just imagine the whole rigmarole because they changed the procedure and there nearly was a prang. There's going to be an investigation. Now, the poor oak, probably the fleet captain on the 777, who decided, no, the first officer must make the, ready for takeoff call to the PAX, is probably in a bit of trouble because, there's a lot of consequences to things like this when a report comes out like that. Hard to diss it before you...
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I was looking at, they had such a long taxi. This is a massive airport.
Yeah.
And look, mistakes do happen. We are human. We are prone to these kind of things. So,
and also, this is not written by the pilot. So this is just a report that they're saying this is what happened. So the poor pilot probably, if there could have been something else that was legit that caused the confusion.
Exactly.
But those things, if you add them up, pressing an intercom button, making an announcement and assessing the departure runway is kind of what you do on every takeoff anyway.
Yeah.
So,
but I suppose it is a bit of task saturation for someone of low experience.
Yeah, 100%. But,
Yeah, it just goes to show. Again, I suppose we could relate it to the MAX accidents as well. There's all these changes and different things happening in SOPs. If it's not trained through properly and not implemented in the right way, these things are going to happen.
Yep.
So, spoken about it before. The evidence is there.
Speak about it again.
Yeah.
United hopes to restore services to mainland China after the ban lifted there. A lot of flights now going into China. It's crazy from being so closed off for so long. They're waiting for an approval to increase the frequency there. So they want to send more flights, but they need approval. I looked at flight radar the other day. You see how many flights going in and out of there. Yeah. And internally in China as well, that's a massive market.
Well, they've been locked up and bottled up for so long. Can you just imagine the eagerness to bust out and start moving around and get things done? It must be pandemonium.
Yeah. What's also wild, have a look on flight radar, the Indian market, and see the internal flying that's going on there. It's also quite remarkable. The recovery is, we actually can't really speak about, there's a Cathay story here where it speaks about the, pre-pandemic and all the rest, but it's almost not mentioned anymore because once the recovery's happened, you can't pretend you're still in the recovery. Yeah. What you're seeing now is post-recovery. Yeah. And it's different, but it's no longer in this sort of recovery phase. There was a bit of a threat at some point that maybe some restrictions come back, the numbers were increasing and all the rest, so you thought, well, maybe, and even here in South Africa, a little bit worried that they were going to impose some more travel restrictions. They didn't. And I think it's pretty much done. Move forward and stop talking about the recovery. Yeah, I don't like these. There's too much of it,
Yeah, no, it's
2019 levels and all that stuff. Well, you got to start saying maybe 2022 levels, not so much.
Exactly.
Yeah. Take
comparing
it for
apples
what it
with
is.
Proper apples again, man.
I agree. There's unfortunately you got to mention this one as well because we were giving Boeing a nice start off to the show there, but. The U.S. federal judge faced with deciding whether to lift Boeing's immunity from criminal prosecution related to the 737 MAX crashes that killed 346 people. So, still going on, and not the end of that story.
No, that'll be a fight that's
going to go on for a while.
For a long time still.
Yeah, the judge has not ruled one way or the other just yet. That story I was talking about, Cathay Pacific, the group expects to report a steeper net loss for the 2022 financial year, but remains encouraged about its recovery in the new year. I think they're going to go through a pretty rapid recovery, those guys. The airline group expects to operate 70% pre-pandemic passenger capacity by the end of 223 and returned to full capacity a year later.
Yeah. Rapid.
Rapid. Shout out to all the
boys and girls in Hong Kong.
Flying in Hong Kong there. We get big support in Hong Kong, right? We actually should give a shout out to everyone there a bit more often.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they really do get good support there. And we, on the aviation side of things, we sit sort of number 1, 2, 3 in the charts there in Hong Kong. And that's all mainly the South African guys supporting us. So.
All our expat mates over there.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, no, we really appreciate it. And I just hope things that get better and better there,
It looks like it is, though. Hey? It really does. And you know how we know that it's getting better and better? Because we're actually hearing less and less from the guys. We were getting nice reports. Just letting us know what's happening there. But I think things have normalized a bit. However,
either that things have
a
normalized,
lot of the guys have left,
or they're just working so damn hard that there's no time to even send a voice note.
That is a good possibility. You make a good point. Everyone, we're talking about the subject. How hard, if you're listening to the show, let us know. How hard are you flying now? And is it noticeably different to, again, I'll use that term, pre-pandemic levels?
Yeah.
I'm quite interested to hear, because we haven't flown post-pandemic.
No.
We
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, you and I are both getting ready to do our IF renewals this week and next. And I had the experience yesterday in the simulator where it was like I had to dust off a few cobwebs, and it became very apparent, like, being at the flight deck for that long. Look, it still comes back. I think I can still do a steep turn on rails, but it's the other things. And
it's because you had a good instructor.
Yeah, I did. Shucks. But I mean, what's actually happening out there now? Because we pretty much getting the bulk of our news of the industry from the South African context, from the guys that we know here. But it'd be nice to know what's actually really potting globally and how are guys feeling about it.
Yeah, how's everyone holding up? How's the family life? Because a lot of people, you get, the few people that you stay in contact with. One of my good friends, he hasn't sort of made the full committed move with the entire family yet, with Emirates, but family's still here. So he's doing this sort of bit of a difficult phase, still got small kids and all the rest. And I think he's not the only one. I think a lot of people were much more timid after this whole story and a little bit more cautious in making these big moves. You got to pull kids out of school, move them across. It's a huge, huge thing. Moving house when you're in the same neighborhood is a big thing. Never mind moving from one country to another.
Yeah.
My cousin now, he's just taken a job. Old Jerry's with a Wizz Air in Abu Dhabi. And that alone, I mean, is a huge move.
Yeah,
you've got to go organize bank accounts, this and that, and you forget about all those little things. You just see the shiny new 321 that you're going to be flying, but you forget about all those other things you have to do. And a lot of guys, I think, in that phase where they go over, do all that stuff, and then the families come over later. So it's a difficult period for a lot of people. But I am interested in how the guys are shaping and what the plans are long term. I think.
Yeah, what are people thinking? Along those lines, is it sustainable? Is it better than it used to be?
Yeah. Is it more now? I suppose it's probably more stable now from a job perspective. That instability has such a big impact. For years at SACS, we had this instability, and we didn't realize the impact of that until it actually closed down, because then it was like, can actually breathe. You always got threats, we might not get paid this month and all that, and it just weighs on you. But airlines aren't going through those things at the moment. They can't afford to, because the pilot shortages, the guys will just leave.
Well, that's it. It's actually creating the inverse. Is you are more stable job-wise now, but you're working so much harder.
Yes.
I say that in.
Is it just pilots that are working so much harder, or worldwide? Are we just working so much harder?
Yeah, I get the impression like it doesn't matter what industry you're in. A lot of people you talk to, I mean, you've spoken to lawyers who have said, shit, they're working a whole lot harder for less bucks than they used to. Interesting. It's a fascinating sort of thread that.
Yeah, maybe another story we can bring up, and it might even be cool on a live show at some point to chat about. Hear from some of the guys.
100%.
The one negative that we have, well, not negative, I suppose, but obviously you have a topic like that. If you're going to talk about, the guys will have to remain anonymous because they're never going to go and call out the airline for the fact that they're working too hard. But at the end of the day, I said to my cousin when he left, it's all about lifestyle. If your lifestyle's good and you are working hard, well, that's part and parcel with having a flying job.
Exactly.
And I don't think anyone is... I think if you're working for an organized airline and you're flying 100 hours a month, well, yeah, you'll take that. It's probably better than working for a disorganized airline, working for 50 hours a month. So it's not the working hard. You sign up to work hard.
Yeah.
It's just, I wonder what the long-term prospects are. Can you, particularly, 100 hours when you're flying regional is very different from 100 hours flying long haul.
Yeah.
And, so topic on its own as you stay.
Hey, and the buzzword there, lifestyle. I mean, it's paramount. And, what's it like now?
At the end of the day, it's all about lifestyle.
It has to be. If it's not about lifestyle, then you're doing something wrong.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Staying with pay, there's been a few strikes imminent this last week. So striking news, that was in Berlin at Brandenburg Airport. 300 flights and 35,000 passengers expected to be affected by the industrial action there. And that was going to be yesterday, the 25th. Union demanding €500 extra pay. It's about 4 million rand for ground handling and airport company employees. And then the other one in Lagos, Nigeria, ground personnel as well. And you guessed it, insufficient wages.
Yep.
Services have resumed there. So, you're going to see more and more of that.
I was quite surprised to hear that they'll be striking in Lagos. I mean, you actually never really hear of that from Nigeria a lot.
I've never heard
really
of it.
Striking.
No. Doesn't strike me as a striking nation.
No. I'm not surprised. Berlin, Europeans are forever striking.
They love a strike.
Yeah.
They love a strike.
They'll strike because there's not enough cool drink in a vending machine, man. But
it's like the French air traffic control strikes. Same time every year. It's going to happen.
Yeah. So, I was quite surprised by that strike in Lagos.
Staying in Lagos, Airpeace, spoke about their growth. A story came out the other day, Sabotage against them perhaps with these, they've had, I don't know how many, 3 aircraft I think have been pranged into
in the space of a month.
Yeah. By trucks on the ground.
Yeah.
So they're saying, putting their hands up and going, is this not sabotage?
Yeah, it's one of two. It's one of two scenarios. It's either sabotage or the guys that are in charge of hiring for apron staff are not very good at that job.
Yeah.
So maybe the guy with one eye.
Yeah, not the best.
Not the best guy to be driving a vehicle on the apron.
They've got rid of those employees, by the way. They say, no, it wasn't sabotage. They just were doing a cuck job. Some South African news, Ryan. Big news for this week for me, the whole Mango story. You love talking about Mango. Man.
Yeah.
Pravin Gordhan, again, his name keeps popping up with this. And the BRP at Mango.
Sono.
Super Sono.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's got about the same amount of money as Bernie Ecclestone now. I mean, because these BRPs can make bucks.
They're making use.
And the longer it goes on and on,
I
mean, the less and less likely is for something to happen.
Nothing's ever going to happen there.
But BRP regrets to inform affected parties, of course you regret to inform affected parties, that despite the positive update provided in the previous report, the minister is yet to make a decision on the application. Seems the Public Enterprises Minister withheld his approval because he was not content with certain queries raised by South African Airways version 2. The delay means Mango Airlines and investors may have to part ways, which would result in the wind down of South Africa's budget carrier, who's been seeking ownership for the last 18 months. They haven't flown since July 2021.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
There's
nothing left.
There's maybe an engine lying around somewhere.
Yeah, this is where these BRPs. I don't know enough about the whole process, but they believe there is reasonable cause to rescue the company, and that the business rescue process would be better for creditors and other parties. I understand that. If the creditors side, they're going to get nothing, so they would rather, get something out if they could get the airline going again.
Yeah.
Numerous players in the sector wish to see the domestic carrier back in operation, as it would help solve the current challenges in aviation, for sure. But then the article says, including seat and airline pilot shortages. How's it going to help airline pilot shortages?
Yeah, by adding another airline.
By adding another airline.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Ach, man.
But no one is going to go leave Safair to go fly for Mango.
No, not by a long shot. So, so we just call bullshit on it now. Honestly, Oaks, use your brains. Pravin is he's one of the top notches with his fingers deep in this whole SAA
and he
fucking mess.
He doesn't want it to happen, because if he wanted it to happen, it would have happened already.
Exactly.
So it's clear as day. Didn't want sacks, didn't want version 1 spuries. I think they've got what they want with 2.0.
Yeah.
They're starting small. They a little bit at a time, add a 320 here, add a 320 there, under the radar. Don't really see much about it. But
on the 320s, word on the street is, that they're paying 4 times as much for a lease on a 320 as to what Global is.
Mm-hmm.
So let that sink in.
Yeah.
When you're looking at your IRP5,
tax return. Yeah, but exactly. But that could be one of two things. One, it could be that the reputation is so badly tarnished that any leasing company is going to make sure that they get their money's worth, and it's a high risk, so they paying an extra bit of ZAR. That's option 1.
Yeah.
Option 2 is the more likely one.
Yeah.
Was mentioned on the Kenya Airways story. The same thing, probably leased via some shelf company who's really leasing it to South African Airways. But whatever. But like you say, it does piss you off when, first of all, your electricity bill stays the same. No, it doesn't stay the same. It goes up
by
it's
32%.
It's off for the entire day.
Yes.
But the bill just keeps going up. And then, of course, you pay exorbitant taxes that are being used to fund new 320s. It just does piss you off. Airlink will restart services between South Africa and the land of King Julian. They were suspended for almost 3 years.
Yeah, it's about time.
Yep. We are looking forward to reconnecting South Africa and Madagascar and resuming our role in support of the recovery of ties between the two markets, said Airlink CEO and MD Roger Foster. Roger being his political best in that quote there.
I think I know why that happened, and someone actually called it out on Fly Africa the other day, where they nabbed a picture of, I think it's a presidential citation or something. Bombed into Lanseria, obviously under the auspices of coming in for maintenance, but they, I think, snuck in to come and fetch that gold that was all, allegedly owed to them.
Okay.
And then...
So it's sorted.
Yeah, they got their gold back. Airlink, you can pull in, boys.
Done. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Staying with Link, there's a advert there I saw on Craig's page the other day. Pilot vacancies at Airlink. Now, this is an opportunity. The Airlink are taking first officers at the moment. Airlink is a proper serious airline. When I saw this last night, let's have a look here. What does it say? Knowledge, qualifications. I think it's something like 1,000 hours. Let me try and find
Minimum
it.
education requirement, grade 12 certificate equivalent. Yeah.
Oh, you won't make it.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, Link. Can't send you my CV.
Yeah, let's see more, yeah. Minimum 1,000 hours, at least a frozen ATPL, 200 hours on multi-engine. So that is really a good option. And why I'm bringing this up, Ryan, how hard did you try and what did you have to do back in 2010 to get yourself into SA Express?
Man, yeah.
You can't say it's on this podcast because there's families listening.
Yeah, I know.
Shout out to Barry Gove in Australia.
Thanks, Barry. Still owe you a big one. And,
yeah, we both owe Barry for our jobs.
And if it wasn't for so many things that had to be done and to line up for that to happen by virtue of, the right call happening at the right time.
Man.
Yes, see, man.
But needless to say, here's on social media saying, please, if you've got these hours and you meet the targets, please come and apply because we need pilots. And it's a legit job. A legit job.
How long do you think it's going to take before they're sending out adverts, not Link, but airlines in general, saying, if you can come to our offices and draw an aeroplane on a piece of paper that remotely resembles an aeroplane,
yeah, well,
you'll get employed as a first officer.
Topic that came up a few weeks ago. Airlines still do these bizarre little, what quizzes, what are they? Psychometric tests, we call them.
Yeah.
They all do them. And yeah, we've done them. And we know people that have not gotten into airlines because of psychometric tests that are far more stable than you and me. So it's just, aviation is so, the stakes are so high, the responsibility in the flight deck is so high. I suppose they've got to have all their checks and balances done. But you see stuff like this, and when an airline like Link is desperate for, not desperate, but I mean, they need first officers.
Yeah.
It does really paint a picture that we really do need more pilots. We need legit pilots with the right qualifications to fly in these seats. Otherwise, it doesn't matter who's going to start an airline. I mean, there's supposed to be those another 2 airlines at least that we know of that taken a bit of criticism on the show every now and again.
Yeah.
So they're supposed to start. Who's going to fly those aircraft?
No, look, and we've called it months ago on the show where we said the pool in South Africa is going to dry up drastically very soon. You're seeing the effects of it now. I mean, to answer your question, I remember at the stage to get into local airlines here in South Africa, man, you had to have like 5,000 hours on anything above 50 tons.
Yeah.
It was just ridiculous, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how things have changed and what the way aviation is right now.
It really is whack.
Yeah.
We faced with a situation here on the show. We're going on now, 45 minutes we've been chatting. Supposed to do the advisory. The advisory this week, the topic we have planned, we're going to have to save it, Ryan. It's a long topic. We're going to have to speak about that on another show. I've got something else we can talk about now, but reason being, there's going to be our friends at Eskom with the load shedding, shutting things off at 4 o'clock local. And if the power gets shut off before we end the show, then we lose a lot of the gen that we've spoken about. So let's chat about something smaller. It was an advisory, I think, 3 weeks ago. ChatGPT. Everyone is using it. People are keeping quiet about using it.
Yeah.
And the reason people are keeping quiet is because it really does work. It's an amazing piece of kit. I was quite shocked when I put the show out, the original advisory 3 weeks ago. I thought, look, everyone's going to know about this thing. But so many people contacted me to say, hey, I must try this new piece of tech, new piece of kit. So quite a remarkable thing. If you can go and check it out. Let me see if it's working. Aran, you've obviously tried it, Aran.
Oh yeah, no, I've been playing with it and absolutely love it. I mean, it's a game changer. ChatGPT and then everything else that gets, plugged in or comes from it really is a awesome piece of tech, man.
Yeah, so a lot of people are using it for,
and it makes guys like me sound
this
supremely intelligent.
This is where it gets,
despite how I look.
Exactly. That's where it gets interesting. Because it's you don't really have to be a genius at certain things. You can simply, go into ChatGPT, ask it a question, and it'll give you the answer. What should we ask it now, Ryan?
Jeez, that's half the trick, though. It's actually,
you
on the
knowing
spot.
what to ask.
Exactly.
So say, give us some topics for our aviation podcast. Let's just see what it says with that. See if it comes up with an answer. The website as well. So if you are trying to use it, it's still a little bit slow.
Yes.
Certain times of the night, forget it.
Gets overloaded.
Actually,
right. That's what I found it got a bit frustrating for me was.
Yeah. So it's writing up some stuff there for us.
Okay, so it's got there so far. The future of air travel, discussing advancements in technology and their potential impact on the industry, which we do anyway.
Yeah.
low-cost carriers and the impact on the airline industry. Number 3 says the environmental impact of aviation and efforts to reduce emissions.
So these are all ideas that it's giving us for next week's show.
It hasn't said anything about please don't talk any more shit about SAA.
Yeah. Obviously hasn't listened to our show. Pilot shortage and its impact on the industry. All right.
Yeah.
The rise of private aviation and the emergence of new business models. Air traffic control modernization and the future of air traffic. So these are all ideas, right? So now you can say to it, you can actually ask it, say, please provide motivational topics inside the aviation industry. So it's quite a vague question.
Yeah.
See if it's clever enough.
I wonder if anyone's been able to out GPT.
Well, it just passed the bar exam the other day, SATs and all that sort of stuff. So it's a legit still thinking. Yeah. Question might be
I
one
think
step
you've just flummoxed it.
Yeah. No, it'll answer. I'm telling you now.
Broke GPT.
So this is version 3. So version 4 coming out. Apparently the change between the two is going to be massive. Someone writes an email to you. You don't know how to respond to the email. Copy and paste the email, plug it in there, and say, please respond to this email.
Yeah.
It will send you a response. Copy and paste, reply to the email, send. You don't know what you're copying and you've agreed to, but nonetheless, it's... I think see if this thing writes it down.
It can be one awesome tool, and it could be potentially dangerous as well.
Okay, it's busy writing for us, yeah. Overcoming adversity and achieving success in aviation. Stories of pilots, mechanics, and other aviation professionals who have overcome challenges to achieve their goals. Inspiring women in aviation, highlighting the contributes they've faced, right? The thrill of flight. Exploring the excitement and joy of flying and the feeling of freedom that it can bring. Yeah.
This thing has been listening to the podcast.
It has been listening. The importance of teamwork and collaboration in aviation, discussing how effective teamwork and communication can lead to safer and more efficient flights. The value of mentorship in aviation. Definitely been listening to my last video that I put out. Stories of mentors that have helped shape the careers of aviation professionals. But how's this, Ryan? This is. I asked it for an idea,
and it
was an idea. You want to put out a podcast, you want to write a post. Now I don't want to take this and make it be my post. Look, it's still going, man. The importance of safety culture in aviation, discussing the role of safety in preventing accidents and incidents, and the impact that it has in the industry. The role of aviation in connecting the world. It's just going on and on. And these are all ideas that can be used for a podcast, a post on social media, a video, whatever you want, and it's an absolutely remarkable piece of kit. It's still going.
It's a game changer.
It's still going. It's a game changer. But that's it. That's what the world's all about at the moment. Ain't gonna change. It's there. Use it. ChatGPT. You got to know how it works. It's gonna be around, and it's gonna change things forever.
It's moving really fast, eh?
Yep. As fast as you and me are going to get out of here for a beer afterwards. Have a lovely weekend, everyone. Thanks for your time, pal.
Take it easy, guys. Catch you in the next one. Ciao.
Dallas 553 uniform, turn left heading 220 and contact Chicago departure. Left heading 220, contact departure, Chicago 553 uniform. United 204, fighting 270, 28 right, Echo, Echo cleared for takeoff. Okay, 28 right and Echo, Echo cleared for takeoff, heading 270, United 204. Scott 5169.